Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Conk's Corner with me, John Voth, with Marcus over there.
What's up, yo?
And Dexter, who's chewing on something. Welcome. For those of you who I don't know if anybody is new at all, but maybe on YouTube actually. I'm reading Harry Potter for the first time ever. I haven't read it before. I've only seen two of the movies, the first two movies. Don't remember anything from them. I read all the comments afterwards, so please no spoilers or hints about what's coming up in the chat. If you have a question, leave it down there so I can respond to it when I'm actually looking up from my book at the end. I save all these on YouTube, and for those people who are listening on YouTube and commenting there too, it's great having you there. I really appreciate reading your insights, thoughts, and insults. So if you want to catch up, the link to YouTube is my bio, in case you haven't seen the others. My Patreon is there too, so if you want to support me and go on some of the tiers there that you can help support me on, I'm reading The Goldfinch every week, and I'll be reading some short stories to you too. But I think I got some fun ideas for those in mind. I give 10% of whatever I get there to the Treehouse Vancouver Child and Youth Advocacy Center. They help prevent child abuse and violence, which is great. Thank you, healthcare workers. Still at it after all these years of Corona. What it's felt like till now. I hope you're all doing good. I've been kind of transitioning into it feels like the new normal for me. I've kind of gotten used to it. Yeah, it's weird, but that might not be everybody's case. That's mine at least. Okay, let's get this drawing on. Put the glasses on with my new red marker. Bam, boom, pow. And land these glasses on my face. And now we're gonna start. Okay, so they were at the Yule ball. Ron and Hermione had a big fight. All of it was Ron's fault. He was a jerk. None of it was Hermione's. She just existed. Whoa. He's off to chew the bone somewhere else. And Mark just asked me for what my premonition would be beforehand. And I think there's going to be some kind of evil that befalls this Yule ball. That's my premonition. So let's see. Been to a concert, a car concert again. Nice, Queen of the Dark Horizons. Also, an awesome name. All right, let's get this going, baby. Where are we? We're on page 368 of this book. Okay, she just ran off. Okay, got there. Ron watched her go with a mixture of anger and satisfaction on his face. Are you going to ask me to dance at all? Padma asked him. No, said Ron, still glaring after Hermione. Fine, snapped Padma, and she got up and went to join Parvati and the Beauxbatons boy, who conjured up one of his friends to join them so fast that Harry could have sworn he had zoomed him there by a summoning charm. Where is Hermione, O Nini? Said a voice. Crumb had just arrived at their table, clutching 2 butterbeers. No idea, said Ron mulishly, looking up at him. Lost her, have you? Crumb was looking surly again. Well, if you see her, tell her I have drinks, he said, and he slouched off. Made friends with Victor Crumb, have you, Ron? Percy had bustled over, rubbing his hands together and looking extremely pompous. Excellent! That's the whole point, you know. International magical cooperation. To Harry's annoyance, Percy promptly took Padma's vacated seat. The top table was now empty. Professor Dumbledore was dancing with Professor Sprout, Ludo Bagman with Professor McGonagall. Oh, right. Last time I put on some music, the Yule Ball music. Okay, let's get that going again. Harry Potter. Yule Ball music. The Potter Waltz extended that goes on for 30 minutes. just waltzing without end. Everybody's like, okay, we get it, champions. Hello, Christine Counts Garner. And Dan Spence is here. Toilet time! Oh, somebody made a note that I missed a toilet time joke in the last book, in the last reading. Oh. Something about surprising Cho Chang at the bathrooms or something like that. Missed out on it. Missed out. Okay. So they're dancing. Madame Maxine and Hagrid were cutting a wide path around the dance floor as they waltzed through the students, and Karkaroff was nowhere to be seen. When the next song ended, everybody applauded once more, and Harry saw Ludo Bagman kiss Professor McGonagall's, hand. I thought, like, whoo-wee, this guy's ballsy. Just like, mwah! Professor McGonagall hates it, but secretly likes it later on. Kiss her hand and make his way back through the crowds, at which point Fred and George accosted him. What do they think they're doing, annoying senior ministry members? Percy hissed, watching Fred and George suspiciously. No respect. Ludo Bagman shook off Fred and George fairly quickly, however, and spotting Harry, waved and came over to their table. I hope my brothers weren't bothering you, Mr. Bagman, said Percy at once. What? Oh, no, not at all, said Bagman. No, they were just telling me a bit more about those fake ones of theirs. Wondering if I could advise them on the marketing. I've promised to make them to put them in touch with a couple of contacts of mine at Zonko's Joke Shop. Yeah, that place. That's the place those two are going to run when they're older. Zonko's Joke Shop. Wouldn't be surprised at all walking in there and seeing that. Bagman opened his mouth to ask Harry something, but Percy diverted him. How do you feel the tournament's going, Mr. Bagman? Our department's quite satisfied. The hitch with the Goblet of Fire, he glanced at Harry, was a little unfortunate, of course, but it seems to have gone very smoothly since, don't you think? Oh, yes, Bagman said cheerfully. It's all been enormous fun. How's old Barty doing? Shame he couldn't come. Oh, I'm sure Mr. Crouch will be up and about in no time, said Percy importantly. But in the meantime, I'm more than willing to take up the slack. Of course, it's not all attending balls, he laughed airily. Oh, no. Oh, no. I've had to deal with all sorts of things that have cropped up in his absence. You heard Ali Bashir was caught smuggling a consignment of flying carpets into the country. And then we've been trying to persuade the Transylvanians to sign the international ban on dueling. I've got a meeting with the heir of magical cooperation in the new year. Let's go for a walk, Ron muttered to Harry. Get away from Percy. Hey, Holly and Nathan. Pretending they wanted more drinks, Harry and Ron left the table, edged around the dance floor, and slipped out into the entrance hall. The front doors stood open, and the fluttering fairy lights in the rose garden winked and twinkled as they went down the front steps, where they found themselves surrounded by bushes, winding ornamental paths, and large stone statues. Harry could hear splashing water, which sounded like a fountain. This seemed like a perfect romantic setting for him and Ron to finally elope. Huh? Whoa, what a twist. What a twist. Well, where's this book gonna go from here? I don't know. It's changed everything completely. Okay, I'm gonna keep on going. Here and there, people were sitting on carved benches. He and Ron set off along one of the winding paths through the rose bushes, but they had gone only a short way when they heard an unpleasantly familiar voice. Like a Severus Snape. Yeah. I don't see what there is to fuss about, Igor. Severus, you cannot pretend this isn't happening. Karkaroff's voice sounded anxious and hushed, as though keen not to be overheard. It's been getting clearer and clearer for months. I am becoming seriously concerned. I cannot deny it. Then flee, said Snape's voice curtly. Flee. I will make your excuses. I, however, am remaining at Hogwarts. Snape and Karkaroff came around the corner. Snape, I kind of imagine Snape having little bit of his head down all the time. There's a big jacket. He's just looking around, almost like a like a Disney character. You know, like always looking around like this.
Karkaroff or
Karkaroff.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry, not Snape. Karkaroff. Hi, Jules Geese and Adriel Carrie Underwood. Snape and Karkaroff came around the corner. Snape had his wand out and was blasting rose bushes apart. Hate beauty, no more beauty. His expression most ill-natured. Squeals issued from many of the bushes, and dark shapes emerged from them. 10 points from Hufflepuff. Force it, Snape snarled as a girl ran past him. And 10 points from Ravenclaw too, Stebbins, as a boy went rushing after her. And what are you two doing? He added, catching sight of Harry and Ron on the path ahead. Karkaroff, Harry saw, looked slightly discomposed to see them standing there. His hand went nervously to his goatee, and he began winding it around his finger again. We're walking, Ron told Snape shortly. Not against the law, is it? Keep walking, then, Snape snarled, and he brushed past them, his long black cloak billowing out behind him. Karkaroff hurried away after Snape. Harry and Ron continued down the path. What's got Karkaroff all worried? Ron muttered. And since when have he and Snape been on first-name terms? Said Harry slowly. Thank you, Jessa Raylin. Appreciate that. Yeah, okay, maybe he does have a little bit of a Gru similarities. I didn't start out there, but I could totally see that. Yeah. Hey, Sarah Dawn. Welcome. They had reached a large stone reindeer now, over which they could see the sparkling jets of a tall fountain. The shadowy outlines of 2 enormous people were visible on a stone bench, watching the water in the moonlight. And then Harry heard Hagrid speak. Oh, here we go. Wait. I gotta get some Barry White going. Oh, God. Sorry, that's just how it's gotta be. That's how it's gotta be. Yeah, Barry White and Hagrid. Yes. Oh, no, yeah, there we go. Moment I saw you, I knew, he was saying in an oddly husky voice. Harry and Ron froze. This didn't sound like the sort of scene they ought to be walking in on, somehow. Harry looked around, back up the path, and saw Fleur Delacour and Roger Davies standing I can't stop bobbing to this, it's so good. Standing half concealed in a rose bush nearby. He tapped Ron on the shoulder and jerked his head towards them, meaning that they could easily sneak off that way without being noticed. Fleur and Davies looked... this is a bit too many lyrics. Where's that song? Can't get enough of your love. Where's that famous one? Sorry, I just have to make this happen right now because Barry White has made so many people... Never gonna give you up. I think this is it. Yeah. This is it. Yeah. There we go. All right. But Ron, eyes widening in horror at the sight of Fleur, shook his head vigorously and pulled Harry deeper into the shadows behind the reindeer. What do you know, Hagrid? Said Madame Maxine, a distinct purr in her low voice. Ow. Harry definitely didn't want to listen to this. He knew Hagrid would hate to be overheard in a situation like this. He certainly would have done. What, John? Make so many people what? Make the lovey-dovey. If it had been possible, he would have put his fingers in his ears and hummed loudly, but that wasn't really an option. Instead, he tried to interest himself in a beetle crawling along the stone's reindeer back. But the beetle just wasn't interested enough to block out Hagrid's next words. I just knew you were like me. Was it your mother or your father? I don't know what you mean, Hagrid. It was my mother. Oh, this isn't as romantic as I thought it was. It's all about their tragic past. Come on. Well, let it run quietly. It was my mother, said Hagrid quietly. She was one of the last ones at Britain. Of course, I can't remember. I can't remember her too well. She left sea when I was about 3. She wasn't really the maternal sort. Well,
It's not in their natures, is it? Don't know what happened to her. Might be dead for all I know.
Madame Maxine didn't say anything, and Harry, in spite of himself, took his eyes off the beetle and looked over the top of the reindeer's antlers, listening. He had never heard Hagrid talk about his childhood before. Cool.
My dad was broken-hearted when she went. Tiny little bloke, my dad was. By the time I was 6, I could lift him up and put him on top of the dresser if he annoyed me.
Whoa.
Used to make him laugh.
Hagrid's deep voice broke. Oh, okay, this is considerably sadder than I thought it would be. Madame Maxine was listening, motionless, apparently staring at the silvery fountain.
Dad raised me, but he died, of course, just after I started school. Sort of had to make me own way after that. Dumbledore was a real help of mine. Very kind to me, he was.
Hagrid pulled out a large, spotted silk handkerchief and blew his nose heavily.
So, anyway, enough about me. What about you? Which side you got on?
But Madame Maxine had suddenly got to her feet. It is chilly. That's not even French at all. It is chilly, she said. But whatever the weather was doing, it was nowhere near as cold as her voice, deeper. I think I will go in now.
Eh?
Said Hagrid blankly.
No, don't go. I've never met another one before.
Another what, precisely? Said Madame Maxine, her tone icy. Harry could have told Hagrid it was best not to answer. He stood there in the shadows, gritting his teeth, hoping against hope he wouldn't. But it was no good.
Another half-giant, of course,
said Hagrid. How dare you! Shrieked Madame Maxine. Her voice exploded through the peaceful night air like a foghorn. Wow. Behind him, Harry heard Fleur and Roger fall out of their rosebush. Whoa, okay. There's all sorts of lovey-dovey going on here.
I have never been more insulted in my life. Half-giant? Moi? I have a big burns.
Hey, everybody, all you French speakers. I got you down pat. Pippins!
I have a big burns.
Oh, Dexter, come here. He found his place underneath the bed. She stormed away. Great multicolored swarms of fairies rose into the air as she passed, angrily pushing aside bushes. Hagrid was still sitting on the bench, staring after her. It was much too dark to make out his expression. Then, after about a minute, he stood up and strode away, not back to the castle, but off out into the dark grounds in the direction of his cabin. Poor guy. I feel so bad for him. Come on, Harry said very quietly to Ron. Let's go. But Ron didn't move. What's up? Said Harry, looking at him. Ron looked around at Harry, his expression very serious indeed. Did you know? He whispered, about Hagrid being half-giant. No, Harry said, shrugging. So what? I thought it was just evident that he's half-giant. He's huge. What else would it be?
Just a really big dude.
I guess. He knew immediately from the look Ron was giving him that he was once again revealing his ignorance of the wizarding world. Brought up by the Dursleys, there were many things that wizards took for granted that were revelations to Harry. But these surprises had become fewer as he moved up the school. Now, however, he could tell that wizards would not have said, "So what?" upon finding out that one of their friends had a giantess for a mother. I'll explain inside, said Ron quietly. Come on. Fleur and Roger Davies had disappeared, probably into a more private clump of bushes. Harry and Ron returned to the great hall. Parvati and Padma were now sitting at a distant table with a whole crowd of Beauxbatons boys, and Hermione was once more dancing with Crumb. Harry and Ron sat down at a table far removed from the dance floor. So, Harry prompted Ron, What's the problem with giants? Well, they're... Ron struggled for words. Not very nice, he finished lamely. Who cares, Harry said. There's nothing wrong with Hagrid. I know there isn't, but blimey, no wonder he keeps it quiet, Ron said, shaking his head. I always thought he'd got it in the way of bad engorgement charm when he was a kid or something. Didn't like to mention it. But what's it matter if his mother was a giantess, said Harry. Well, no one who knows him will care, 'cause they'll know he's not dangerous, said Ron slowly. But, Harry, they're just vicious giants. It's like Hagrid said. It's in their natures. They're like trolls. They just like killing. Everyone knows that. There aren't any left in Britain now, though. What happened to them? Well, they were dying out anyway, and then loads got themselves killed by auras. What's an aura? Maybe they'll explain it. If they haven't yet, don't explain it. If it's coming up, wait off. But if not, then you can tell me. They're supposed to be giants abroad, though. They hide out in mountains, most likely. I don't know who Maxine thinks she's kidding, Harry said, watching Madame Maxine sitting alone at the judges' table, looking very somber. If Hagrid's half giant, she definitely is. Big bones. The only thing that's got bigger bones than her is a dinosaur. Harry and Ron spent the rest of the ball discussing giants in their corner, neither of them having any inclination to dance. Harry tried not to watch Cho and Cedric. It gave him a strong desire to kick something. Auror, Dark Wizard Hunter. Right, yeah, thank you, Tash. When the Weird Sisters finished playing at midnight, everyone gave them a last loud round of applause and started to wend their way. W-E-N-D? I think maybe that's a typo. They started to wend their way into the entrance hall. It's probably some wine.
Yeah.
No. There couldn't be a typo in here. Well, if it's a different word, let me know. Otherwise, there's a typo. Many people were expressing the wish that the ball could have gone on longer, but Harry was perfectly happy to be going to bed. As far as he was concerned, the evening hadn't been much fun. Out in the entrance hall, Harry and Ron saw Hermione saying goodnight to Crumb before he went back to Durmstrang's ship. She gave Ron a very cold look and swept past him up the marble staircase without speaking. Harry and Ron followed her, but halfway up the marble staircase, Harry heard someone calling him. Hey, Harry! It was Cedric Diggory. Harry could see Cho waiting for him in the entrance hall below. Yeah? Said Harry coldly, as Cedric ran up the stairs towards him. Cedric looked as though he didn't want to say whatever it was in front of Ron, who shrugged, looking bad-tempered, and continued to climb the stairs. Listen. Cedric lowered his voice as Ron disappeared. I owe you one for telling me about the dragons. You know that golden egg? Does yours wail when you open it? Yeah, said Harry. Well, take a bath, okay? What? Take a bath and, take the egg with you and, just mull things over in the hot water. It'll help you think. Trust me. Harry stared at him. Tell you what, Cedric said. Use the prefect's bathroom. Fourth door to the left of that statue of Boris, the Bewildered. Toilet time! There you go. I got it. To the left of that statue of Boris, the Bewildered on the 5th floor. Passwords, Pine Fresh. Gotta go. Want to say good night. He grinned at Harry again and hurried back down the stairs to Cho. Harry walked back to Gryffindor Tower alone. That had been extremely strange advice. Why would a bath help him to work out what the wailing egg meant? Was Cedric pulling his leg? Was he trying to make Harry look a fool, so Cho would like Cedric even more by comparison? The fat lady and her friend Vi were snoozing in the picture over the portrait hole. Harry had to yell, "Fairy lights!" before he woke them up, and when he did, they were extremely irritated. He climbed into the common room and found Ron and Hermione having a blazing row. Whoa. Standing 10 feet apart, social distancing, nice. They were bellowing at each other, each scarlet in the face. Well, if you don't like it, you know what the solution is, don't you? Yelled Hermione. Her hair was coming down out of its elegant bun now, and her face was screwed up in anger. Oh yeah? Ron yelled back. What's that? Next time there's a ball, ask me before someone else does, and not as a last resort. Ron mouthed soundlessly like a goldfish out of water as Hermione turned on her heel and stormed up the girls' staircase to bed. Hoo-hoo-hoo! Give it to him, Hermione! Stupid Ron.
Make the Ron sound.
Stupid boy. What's Ron's sound? Ron mouthed soundlessly. Oh, it's like... Please no, don't kill me. Ron turned to look at Harry. Well, he spluttered, looking thunderstruck. Well, that just proves... Completely missed my point.
He sucks.
Harry didn't say anything. He liked being back on speaking terms with Ron too much to speak his mind right now. But he somehow thought that Hermione had got the point much better than Ron had. Yeah, that was awesome. That's an awesome little ending. Like that. Okay, a question for you. What do you miss most about being a kid? What's something you miss the most? And maybe I'll add to that, not like, oh, I missed... No, actually, no. You can write whatever you want. I'm not going to control you. I'm going to give you freedom to roam as you like on the fields of questions. That was so dumb. Chapter 24. Rita Skeeter's Scoop. Everybody got up late on Boxing Day. The Gryffindor common room was much quieter than it had been lately, many yawns punctuating the lazy conversations. Hermione's hair was bushy again. She confessed to Harry that she had used liberal amounts of Sleek Easy's hair potion on it for the ball. But it's way too much to bother to do every day, she said matter-of-factly, scratching a purring Crookshanks behind the ears. Ron and Hermione seemed to have reached an unspoken agreement not to discuss their argument. They were being quite friendly to each other, though oddly formal. It's so awkward. Come on. Ron and Harry wasted no time in telling Hermione about the conversation they had overheard between Madame Maxine and Hagrid. But it's surprising there hasn't been any... Yeah, like... Let's see. They've had almost an old book's worth full of no danger, basically. She gets to spend a lot... I'm not complaining, it's just she gets to spend a lot of time on... a lot of different things. Almost no danger, almost like a full book's worth of what we had.
So like the giant ferocious dragons, that just wasn't dangerous.
It's still a while away back. It's not a full book, like I said. Not a full book, but it's a chunk. Let's see. I won't be able to find it right now, but that's what I made. Yeah, I know the try. I'm saying, don't lose it. Okay?
You're on a lag.
You're out of line.
No, they're on a lag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and the Death Eaters. That's right.
Ron, Hermione, okay, I'm just gonna move on. Okay, they had an unspoken agreement. Yeah, they were quite friendly to each other, though oddly formal. Ron and Harry wasted no time in telling Hermione about the conversation they had overheard between Madame Maxine and Hagrid. But Hermione didn't seem to find the news that Hagrid was half-giant nearly as shocking as Ron did. Well, I thought he must be. Of course, yeah, most clever, she said, shrugging. I knew he couldn't be pure giant, because they're about 20 feet tall. But honestly, all this hysteria about giants, they can't all be horrible. It's the same sort of prejudice that people have towards werewolves. It's just bigotry, isn't it? She's like a social justice champion. Ron looked as though he would have liked to reply scathingly, but perhaps he didn't want another row, because he contented himself with shaking his head disbelievingly while Hermione wasn't looking. Oh my gosh. It was time now to think of the homework they had neglected during the first week of the holidays. Everybody seemed to be feeling rather flat now that Christmas was over. Everybody except Harry, that is, who was starting, once again, to feel slightly nervous. The trouble was that February the 24th looked a lot closer from this side of Christmas, and he still hadn't done anything about working out the clue inside the golden egg. He therefore started taking the egg out of its trunk every time he went up to the dormitory, opening it and listening intently, hoping that this time it would make some sense. He strained to think what the sound reminded him of, apart from 30 musical saws, but he had never heard anything else like it. He closed the egg, shook it vigorously, and opened it again to see if the sound had changed, but it hadn't. He tried asking the egg questions, shouting over all the wailing, but nothing happened. He even threw the egg across the room, though he hadn't really expected that to help. John Brown Sugar Voth, premonidiot. Wait, what is that in response to? What is that in response to? What? What did I miss out on? I don't even know what I did. Apparently... Harry had not forgotten the hint that Cedric had given him, but his less than friendly feelings towards Cedric just now meant that he was keen not to accept his help if he could avoid it. In any case, it seemed to him that if Cedric had really wanted to give Harry a hand, he would have been a lot more explicit. He, Harry, had told... What? How could you get more explicit than he already did? Go into the bathroom, make it hot.
Yeah.
What? What is he talking about? Yeah, but he didn't tell me which bathroom. No, he did. He didn't tell me what to do. Get in the bathroom. Yeah, but what more specifically?
Get in the bath with the egg.
Yeah. But then what will happen?
Oh, God.
Well, he didn't need that sort of rubbishy help. Not from someone who kept walking down corridors hand in hand with Cho anyway. And so the first day of the new term arrived, and Harry set off to lessons, weighed down with books, parchment, and quills as usual, but also with the lurking worry of the egg heavy in his stomach. He ate the egg? As though he was carrying that around with him too. Snow was still thick. It's such a dumb joke. Don't forget that Harry isn't very smart. Yeah, he just goes around eating the egg that could have solution. Snow was still thick upon the grounds, and the greenhouse windows were covered in condensation, so thick that they couldn't see out of them in herbology. Nobody was looking forward to the care of magical creatures much in this weather. Though, as Ron said, the Scroots would probably warm them up nicely, either by chasing them or by blasting off so forcefully that Hagrid's cabin caught fire. When they arrived at Hagrid's cabin, however, they found an elderly witch with closely cropped gray hair and a very prominent chin standing before his front door. "Hurry up now! The bell rang 5 minutes ago!" she barked at them as they struggled towards her through the snow. Who are you?" said Ron, staring at her. "Where's Hagrid?" My name is Professor Grubbly Plank. Give me adjectives if it's needed at all," she said briskly. "I'm your temporary care of magical creatures teacher." Where's Hagrid?" Harry repeated loudly. "He's indisposed," said Professor Grubbly Plank shortly. Soft and unpleasant laughter reached Harry's ears. He turned. Draco Malfoy and the rest of the Slytherins were joining the class, all of them looking gleeful, and none of them looked surprised to see Professor Grubbly Plank. Any adjectives yet? None yet here. Okay. "This way, please," said Professor... I'm just doing her super loud, basically. Said Professor Grubbly Plank. Grubbly Plank, what a name. And she strode off around the paddock where the huge Beauxbatons horses were shivering. Harry, Ron, and Hermione followed her, looking back over their shoulders at Hagrid's cabin. All the curtains were closed. Was Hagrid in there, alone? Brisk and businesslike, alone and ill? What's wrong with Hagrid? Harry said, hurrying to catch up with Professor Grubbly Plank. His voice works. Never you mind, she said, as though she thought he was being nosy. I do mind, though, said Harry hotly. What's up with him? Professor Grubbly Plank acted as though she couldn't hear him. She led them past the paddock, where the Beauxbatons' horses were standing, huddled against the cold, and towards a tree on the edge of the forest, where a large and beautiful unicorn was tethered. Many of the girls oohed at the sight of the unicorn. Lavender... Oh, it's so beautiful, whispered Lavender Brown. How did you get it? They're supposed to be really hard to catch. The The unicorn was so brightly white that it made the snow all around look gray. It was pawing the ground nervously with its golden hooves and throwing back its horned head. "Boys, keep back!" barked Professor Grubbly Plank, throwing out an arm and catching Harry hard in the chest. They prefer the woman's touch, unicorns. Girls at the front and approach with care. Come on, easy does it." She and the girls walked slowly forwards towards the unicorn, leaving the boys standing near the paddock fence, watching. The moment Professor Grubbly Plank, love that name, was out of earshot, Harry turned to Ron. "What do you reckon's wrong with him? You don't think a Scroot—" "Oh, he hasn't been attacked, Potter, if that's what you're thinking," said Malfoy softly. Oh no, softly. "No, he's just too ashamed to show his big, ugly face." "What do you mean?" said Harry sharply. Malfoy put his hand inside the pocket of his robes and pulled out a folded page of newsprint. "There you go," he said. "Hate to break it to you, Potter." He smirked as Harry snatched the page, unfolded it, and read it, with Ron, Seamus, Dean, and Neville looking over his shoulder. It was an article topped with a picture of Hagrid looking extremely shifty. "Dumbledore's giant mistake. Albus Dumbledore, eccentric headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, has never been afraid to make controversial staff appointments." Oh no, writes Rita Skeeter, special correspondent. "In September of this year, he hired Alistair Mad-Eye Moody, the notoriously jinx-happy ex-Aura, to teach defense against the dark arts, a decision that caused many raised eyebrows at the Ministry of Magic, given Moody's well-known habit of attacking anybody who makes a sudden movement in his presence. Mad-Eye Moody, however, looks responsible and kindly when set beside the part-human Dumbledore employs to teach care of magical creatures." Whoa, this is a long one. This is 2 pages. Holy. All right. "Rubius Hagrid, who admits to being expelled from Hogwarts in his 3rd year, has enjoyed the position of gamekeeper at the school ever since, a job secured for him by Dumbledore. Last year, however, Hagrid used his mysterious influence over the headmaster to secure the additional post of care of magical creatures teacher over the heads of many better qualified candidates. An alarmingly large and ferocious-looking man." Should I be doing this in her voice instead? Like, she wrote it, but it's an article. I'll try a little with her voice. "An alarmingly large and ferocious-looking man, Hagrid has been using his newfound authority to terrify the students in his care with a succession of horrific creatures. While Dumbledore turns a blind eye, Hagrid has maimed several pupils during a series of lessons, which many admit to being very frightening." Who's saying this? Draco Malfoy. "I was attacked by a hippogriff, and my friend Vincent Crabbe got a bad bite of a flabberworm," says Draco Malfoy, a 4th-year student. "We all hate Hagrid, but we're just too scared to say anything." "Hagrid has no intention of ceasing his campaign of intimidation, however. In conversation with a Daily Prophet reporter last month, he admitted breeding creatures he has dubbed blast-ended Scroots, highly dangerous crosses between manticores and fire crabs." Please go back with the voice you started with. Newscaster's voice for the win. Okay, I get you. I get you. She's pretty annoying. And for a page and a half. "I was just having some fun." Who said this?
"Oh, just having some fun,"
he says, before hastily changing the subject. As if this were not enough, the Daily Prophet has now unearthed evidence that Hagrid is not, as he always pretended, a pure-blood wizard. He is not, in fact, even pure human. His mother, we can exclusively reveal, is none other than the giantess Fridwulva, whose whereabouts are currently unknown. Bloodthirsty and brutal, the giants brought themselves to the point of extinction by warring amongst themselves during the last century. The handful that remained joined the ranks of He Who Must Not Be Named, and were responsible for some of the worst mass Muggle killings of his reign of terror. While many of the giants who served He Who Must Not Be Named were killed by auras working against the dark side, Fridwulfa was not among them. 1 second. Who is Fridwulfa again?
Hagrid's mom.
Hagrid's Mom. Okay. Okay. Man, this sucks for him. It is possible she escaped to one of the giant communities still existing in 4 mountain ranges. If his antics during Care of Magical Creatures lessons are any guide, however, Fred Wolfer's son appears to have inherited her brutal nature. Uh-oh. In a bizarre twist, Hagrid is reputed to have developed a close friendship with the boy who brought about you-know-who's fall from power, thereby driving Hagrid's own mother, like the rest of you-know-who's supporters, into hiding. Perhaps Harry is unaware of the unpleasant truth about his large friend. But Albus Dumbledore surely has a duty to ensure that Harry Potter, along with his fellow students, is warned about the dangers of association with part giants. End of that one. Okay, so why is... I'm trying to understand this. So why is Hagrid's mother and everybody else going to hiding because of Hagrid's friendship with Potter? Or is she just saying this? Driving Hagrid's own mother, like the rest of you-know-who's supporters, into hiding. Is he saying Hagrid's mother was on Voldemort's side?
No, the article is saying that most giants were on Voldemort's side, but that Hagrid's mom wasn't. But she was driven out because almost all giants were.
Gotcha. Oh! Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Yeah, everybody, give Mark a hand.
Aww,
give Mark a hand for being such a champ. Harry finished reading and looked up at Ron, whose mouth was hanging open. How did she find out? He whispered. But that wasn't what was bothering Harry. What do you mean, we all hate Hagrid? Harry spat at Malfoy. What's this rubbish about him? He pointed at Crabbe, getting a bad bite of a flubberworm. They haven't even got teeth. Crabbe was sniggering, apparently very pleased with himself. Well, I think they should put an end to the oaf's teaching career, said Malfoy, his eyes glinting. Half giant. And there was me thinking he'd just swallowed a bottle of Skelligro when he was young. None of the mummies and daddies are going to like this at all. They'll be worried he'll eat their kids. Are you paying attention over there? Professor Grubbly Plank's voice carried over to the boys. The girls were all clustered around the unicorn now, stroking it. Harry was so angry that the Daily Prophet article shook in his hands as he turned to stare unseeingly at the unicorn, whose many magical properties Professor Grubbly Plank was now enumerating in a loud voice, so that the boys could hear it too. I hope she stays, that woman, said Parvati Patil, when the lesson had ended, and they were all heading back to the castle for lunch. That's more that I thought Care of Magical Creatures would be like. Proper creatures like unicorns, not monsters. What about Hagrid? Harry said angrily as they went up the steps. What about him? Said Parvati in a hard voice. He can still be a gamekeeper, can't he? Parvati had been very cool towards Harry since the ball. He supposed that he ought to have paid her a bit more attention, but she seemed to have had a good time all the same. She was certainly telling anybody who would listen that she had made arrangements to meet the boy from Beauxbatons in Hogsmeade on the next weekend trip. That was a really good lesson, said Hermione as they entered the hall. I didn't know half the things Professor Grubbly Plank told us about Look at this, Harry snarled, and he shoved the Daily Prophet article under Hermione's nose. Hermione's mouth fell open as she read. Her reaction was exactly the same as Ron's. How did that horrible Skeeter woman find out? You don't think Hagrid told her? No, said Harry, leading the way over to the Gryffindor table and throwing himself into a chair, furious. He never even told us, did he? I reckon she was so mad he wouldn't give her loads of horrible stuff about me. She went ferreting around to get back at him. Maybe she heard him telling Madame Maxine at the ball, said Hermione quietly. We'd have seen it in the garden, said Ron. Anyway, she's not supposed to come into school anymore. Hagrid said Dumbledore banned her. Maybe she's got an invisibility cloak, said Harry, ladling chicken casserole onto his plate and splashing it everywhere in his anger. Sort of thing she'd do, isn't it? Hide in bushes listening to people? Like you and Ron did, you mean? Said Hermione. We weren't trying to hear him, said Ron indignantly. We didn't have any choice. That stupid jit talking about his giantess mother where anyone could have heard him. We've got to go and see him, said Harry. This evening, after divination. Tell him we want him back. You do want him back, he shot at Hermione. Well, I'm not going to pretend it didn't make a nice change, having a proper care of magical creatures lesson for once. But I do want Hagrid back. Of course I do, Hermione added hastily, quailing under Harry's furious stare. What do you say? It's killed for rubbing and priming of John. Explodes with his glittering stage brush, showering off his shine. Okay, Nathan. So that evening, after dinner, the three of them left the castle once more and went down through the frozen grounds to Hagrid's cabin. They knocked, and Fang's booming barks answered. "Hagrid, it's us!" Harry shouted, pounding on the door. "Open up!" He didn't answer. They could hear Fang scratching at the door, whining, but it didn't open. They hammered on it for 10 more minutes. Ron even went and banged on one of the windows, but there was no response. "What's he avoiding us for?" Hermione said when they had finally given up and were walking back to the school. "He's not in there. They need to feed the dog. Feed the dog!" He surely doesn't think we'd care about him being half giant. But it seemed that Hagrid did care. They didn't see a sign of him all week. Feed the dog! He didn't appear at the staff table at mealtimes. They didn't see him going about his gamekeeper duties in the grounds. And Professor Grubblyplank continued to take the care of magical creatures classes. Malfoy was gloating at every possible opportunity. Who's saying this? Missing your half-breed pal? Oh yeah. Missing your half-breed pal, he kept whispering to Harry whenever there was a teacher around, so that he was safe from Harry's retaliation. Missing the elephant man. There was a Hogsmeade visit halfway through January. Hermione was very surprised that Harry was planning to go. I just thought you'd want to take advantage of the common room being quiet, she said. Really got to work on that egg. Oh, I reckon I've got a pretty good idea what it's about now, Harry lied. Have you really? Said Hermione, looking impressed. Well done! Harry's insides gave a guilty squirm, but he ignored them. He'd still had 5 weeks to work out that egg clue, after all, and that was ages. He's like me. And if he went into Hogsmeade, he might run into Hagrid and get a chance to persuade him to come back. He, Ron, and Hermione left the castle together on Saturday and set off through the cold, wet grounds towards the gates. As they passed the Durmstrang ship moored in the lake, they saw Victor Crumb emerge onto the deck, dressed in nothing but swimming trunks. He was very skinny, but apparently a lot tougher than he looked, because he climbed up onto the side of the ship, stretched out his arms, and dived right into the lake. Badass. He's mad, said Harry, staring at Crumb's dark head as it bobbed out into the middle of the lake. Must be freezing. It's January. It's a lot colder where he comes from, said Hermione. I suppose it feels quite warm to him. Yeah, but there's still the giant squid, said Ron. He didn't sound anxious. If anything, he sounded hopeful. Hermione noticed his tone of voice and frowned. He's really nice, you know, she said. He's not at all like you'd think, coming from Durmstrang. He likes it much better here, he told me. Ron said nothing. He hadn't mentioned Victor Crumb since the ball, but Harry had found a miniature arm under his bed on Boxing Day, which had looked very much as though it had been snapped off a small model figure wearing Bulgaria Quidditch robes. Harry kept his eyes skinned for a sign of Hagrid all the way down the slushy high street, and suggested a visit to the Three Broomsticks once he had ascertained that Hagrid was not in any of the shops. The pub was as crowded as ever, but one quick look around at all the tables told Harry that Hagrid wasn't there. Heart-sinking, he went up to the bar with Ron and Hermione, ordered 3 butterbeers from Madame Rosmerta, and thought gloomily that he might just as well have stayed behind and listened to the egg wailing after all. Doesn't he ever go into the office? Hermione whispered suddenly. Look! She pointed into the mirror behind the bar, and Harry saw Ludo Bagman reflected there, sitting in a shadowy corner with a bunch of goblins. Bagman was talking very fast in a low voice to the goblins, all of whom had their arms crossed and were looking rather menacing. It was indeed odd Harry thought, that Bagman was here at the Three Broomsticks on a weekend when there was no Triwizard event, and therefore no judging to be done. He watched Bagman in the mirror. He was looking strained again, quite as strained as he had done that night in the forest before the dark mark appeared. But just then Bagman glanced over the bar, saw Harry, and stood up.
In a moment!
Oh, wait. In a moment! Harry heard him say brusquely to the goblins. And Bagman hurried through the pub towards him, his boyish grin back in place.
Harry, he said, how are you? Been hoping to run into you. Everything going all right?
Fine, thanks.
Wonder if I could have a quick private word, Harry, said Bagman eagerly. You couldn't give us a moment, you two, could you?
Okay, said Ron, and he and Hermione went off to find a table. Bagman led Harry along the bar to the end, furthest from Madame Rosmerta.
Well, I just thought I'd congratulate you again on your splendid performance against that horntail.
Harry, said Bagman,
really superb.
Thanks, said Harry, but he knew this couldn't be all that Bagman wanted to say, because he could have congratulated Harry in front of Ron and Hermione. Bagman didn't seem in any particular rush to spill the beans, though. Harry saw him glance into the mirror over the bar at the goblins, who were all watching him and Harry in silence through their dark, slanting eyes.
Absolute nightmare,
said Bagman to Harry in an undertone, noticing Harry watching the goblins too.
Their English isn't too good. It's like being back with all the Bulgarians at the Quidditch World Cup. But at least they used sign language another human could recognize. This lot kept gabbling in gobbledygook, and I only know one word of gobbledygook. Bladvak.
Oh,
Bladvak.
but with an accent, it's
Bladvak. It means pickaxe. I don't like to use it in case they think I'm threatening them.
He gave a short, booming laugh. What do they want? Harry said, noticing how the goblins were still watching Bagman very closely. The goblins, I bet the goblins in this world are like the mafia. They're all like around the table, like these little guys, just looking at him. If you watch the last Irishman, what's that? The movie that just came out on Netflix. Oh gosh, I forget the name already. But they're basically mafiosis.
You're gonna pay up a war.
What do they want? Harry said, noticing how the goblins were still watching Bagman very closely.
Well,
said Bagman, looking suddenly nervous.
They're looking for Barty Crouch.
Why are they looking for him here? Said Harry. He's at the ministry in London, isn't he?
As a matter of fact, I've no idea where he is,
said Bagman.
He sort of stopped coming to work. Been absent for a couple of weeks now. Young Percy, his assistant, says he's ill. Apparently, he's just been sending instructions in by owl. But would you mind not mentioning that to anyone, Harry? Because Rita Skeeter's still poking around everywhere she can, and I'm willing to bet she'd work Barty's illness up into something sinister. Probably say he's gone missing like Bertha Jorkins.
Have you heard anything about Bertha Jorkins? Harry asked.
No,
said Bagman, looking strained again.
I've got people looking, of course.
About time, thought Harry.
And it's all very strange. She definitely arrived in Albania because she met her second cousin there. And then she left the cousin's house to go south to see an aunt. And she seems to have vanished without trace en route. Blowed if I can see where she's got to. She doesn't seem the type to elope, for instance, but still, what are we doing? Talking about goblins and Bertha Johnsons. I really wanted to ask you, he lowered his voice, how are you getting on with your golden egg?
Not bad, said Harry untruthfully. Bagman seemed to know he was being honest.
Listen, Harry,
he said, still in a very low voice.
I feel very bad about this. You were thrown into this tournament. You didn't volunteer for it, and
his voice was so quiet now, Harry had to lean closer to listen.
If I can help you at all, a prod in the right direction. I've taken a liking to you. The way you got past that dragon, well, Just say the word.
Harry looked up into Bagman's round, rosy face and wide baby blue eyes. We're supposed to work out the clues alone, aren't we? Yeah, he said, careful to keep his voice casual and not sound as though he was accusing the head of the Department of Magical Games and Sports of breaking the rules.
Well, yes, said Bagman impatiently. But come on, Harry. We all want Hogwarts victory, don't we?
Have you offered Cedric help? Harry said. The smallest of frowns creased Bagman's smooth face.
No, I haven't, he said. Well, like I say, I've taken a liking to you. Just thought I'd offer.
Well, thanks, said Harry, but I think I'm nearly there with the egg. A couple of more days should crack it. Oh, we're getting towards the end here. Okay, that's where I'm going to end it. Today. I'm probably going to go along tomorrow. Wink, wink, maybe. Okay, let's see what questions you got. Before I get into these questions, go follow Mark at ylc.creations for some art. My brother, Mike Voth, 1984, for some cool art too. And go to the link in my bio for my Patreon if you want to support me. What do you think of your premonition skills now that obviously nothing evil happened at the ball? I don't even know who wrote this. Is that Mark? But it's weird. I didn't say anything about that. I don't know where you got that from. Mark again. What's the best insult you've gotten so far? I think it's maybe me being created. Me being bored.
What? I mean, like on your YouTube channel, on your video.
Oh, I don't know. Nothing crazy. Probably the one guy being angry about me messing around with the owls' voices, calling me an asshole. It made me laugh. What do you think the clue means? To get into a bathroom with hot water. That's what I think it means. Shiragel, what should the premonition theme song be? I don't know. I haven't thought about that yet. Something. Ba-ba-ba-ba-bow.
Final countdown, but it's the
Premonition. Which character do you like the least aside from Dean to voice and as written? To voice, definitely Dobby or Winky.
Ugh.
It's just not fun to do.
So bad.
You know, it's like, ew, but it's truthful to the character. And as written, character I like the least? Oh, gosh, that's really hard because all the characters are pretty great. Maybe the one I like the least is Aunt Petunia. She's evil, but not fun evil, like the dad is. And yeah, there's nothing really fun about her. I miss being stupid as a kid. It is fun. Oh, you can still be stupid. Keep being stupid. Please sing the toilet time song. I don't even remember what it was. Toilet time, time to take a poop. It's toilet time, or maybe even a peep. That's the new version of it. Can you draw a multicolored scar? I guess I would have to take 3 of them. Yeah, for sure. I'll do that at some point. Hi, what's your 3 favorite characters in Harry Potter? That's Hagrid, Dumbledore, and Hermione. Those are my 3 favorites. All right, friends, we're about a minute out here. Thanks for tuning in again. I'll be back tomorrow again. Daily Conk's Corner readings at 6 o'clock. With myself, Mark, and Dexter whenever he feels like coming up here. Have a nice evening. I was about to end this with a burp, but I won't.